My people, greetings and salutations. How are we today? Good, I hope. I'm gonna turn off the speaker sound on the other computer. Ladies and gentlemen, children of all ages, grown-ups of all ages, my name is Mike Mongo, astronaut teacher, and I'm here today to do my part to help you get to space. That's what you're doing here, that's what I'm doing here. Let's get into it. I'm so glad you're here today. Great googly moogly. Great googly moogly, as my people say. You know, one of my favorite parts of this whole thing is letting you guys see how it sets up a little bit, you know? These are the lights. I charge these batteries every week to make sure, well, every day actually. I mean, like I'm on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And so these are the batteries. And these are adjustments. I can change the color. I've shown you before. And it lights up the whole space. Plus I got these great sunlights up here. And thankfully, being in Los Angeles, it's usually sunny. There's even a song, "It Never Rains in Southern California," something like that. I'm an astronaut teacher, not a singer. I'm a rocket scientist, Jim, not a doctor. See, that reference is for the grown-ups. That really isn't for the students, because students, you probably haven't seen the original episodes of Star Trek yet. So last time we did a talk with Dr. Cyan Proctor, and she mentioned space food. And I said, well, you know what, we should talk about space food. And she's gonna come on, Dr. Proctor is gonna come on and talk to us about space food in the future, another episode. And she and my friend Therese Jones and my friend Dr. David Lockett, and also my friend Juan Jose Diaz Infante. We all work together and we travel around and put on something called Astronaut Job Fair. And that is a one-day session that trains you how to go after jobs in space and how to prepare yourself for jobs in space. Oh my gosh, I got so many questions this week. Wow. Again, wow. Super excited about that. So as I was saying, me and Dr. Proctor and David, Dr. Lockett, and our friends Therese and Juan Jose Diaz Infante, we all work together and we get to talk about stuff like, well, we get to talk with you about stuff like space food. Now, what in the woogly woogly is space food? It is what it sounds like. It is food that we eat in space. When I was growing up, we had a space food called food sticks. They were delicious. They were kind of like Tootsie Rolls, and they were supposed to be like food. And they put it, and our parents, the grown-ups in our lives, would put them in our lunches that we bring to school and stuff like that. They were pretty tasty. Another thing was called Tang, T-A-N-G, and that we'll probably come out with a new Tang, like a more vitamin-packed, nutrient version. When I was growing up, we would drink a lot of Tang because it was the space drink. Tang was the drink made for space, and then what we've learned over all of these years, and this is really gonna impact you, since you are gonna be the one working in space jobs in the future. Human heirs, the next generation of space explorers. That's you, space explorer, human heir. So space food is very much going to affect you. Holy macadocious. People get bored of food in space. This is information that no one has ever taught you before, has ever shared with you before. People get bored of food in space. Oh, okay. Before I gotta show you something right here. It's like I gotta show you. It's like what thing should I show you? I have these things right here. Let me show you some of this stuff right here. Let me flip this stuff around. Let me flip it. Pucka. All right, see this stuff that I have? This is the desk, by the way, that I made. Remember I told you that my desk from Amazon, oh, the sticker's coming off. My desk from Amazon hasn't arrived yet. Like I got a desk for this show. And so we built a desk in another episode, an earlier episode, and it's staying together great. Like this is what you can build out of cardboard. I love my homemade desk. my homemade space desk. So on my space desk, I put all the cool stuff that I love, like this is the Johnny and Appleseed in Space mission patch. This is embroidered. You can see it's made with stitches. And my friend Tim Gagnon, who has designed so many mission patches for so many different missions, for different space missions, designed this patch for us, and Urbana University and United Launch Alliance. And here's the United Launch Alliance patch that I got from this. So Johnny Appleseed in Space, the apple seeds from the original Johnny Appleseed apples from a tree that was planted by Johnny Appleseed himself, went to space this past December. It went to space on this mission, the United Launch Alliance, ULA, Boeing Starliner. Atlas V is the United Launch Alliance rocket, and there's the spaceship, the Starliner right there. And that's where our apple seeds were put. Tori Bruno, who is a terrific ally of mine, that's somebody who always supports and helps. So he really is into you growing up to live, work, and play in space. So he's like, I love this idea. Let's send apple seeds to space and have students grow their own space apple trees, which I think is the coolest. That makes him one of the coolest of my books. So that's the mission. That's what we did. And I keep these around because I love them. And look, this is called a challenge coin. This is a coin that as a commemorative, that you get when you go to a space mission. Some of the space missions have it. So this is the original flight test, OFT, of the United Launch Alliance Starliner. And so this is the coin that we get. It's super, super cool. I haven't even taken out of that little sleeve. Maybe we'll do something with that one day. So I keep cool space stuff around. And one of the things that I wanted to show you that was really important is I keep a notebook of the kind of stuff that we talk about right here. And you can see, like, there's a picture of my Johnny Appleseed in Space little design that I drew, and here's the one of a galaxy, and then I have my name, and there's the Humanitas insignia, heart, wing, and stars, and if someone finds it, they can get a hold of me because I put in here, if found, Mike Mongo, mike@mikemongo.com. Okay. And then this is something I keep in my pocket, and it's a little note because I can keep notes on my this device that I'm broadcasting on right now on my iPhone. I can keep recordings, and I can type and text notes to myself or write an email to myself. But it isn't as fun as drawing and little pictures and fail early, fail often, fail hard, fail now. 95% of success is showing up packed. They say that 90% of success is showing up. Story Musgrave, the astronaut, taught me that. But there's another saying that's 95% of success is showing up packed. That means ready to go. So 90% of success is showing up, and 95% of success is showing up packed. Like, as an astronaut, I'm ready to go. You know what I mean? So this whole thing is about. Hey, let's pucka this. Pucka. This whole thing requires training, and a lot of the questions I get is from people, students, who want to be an astronaut, and I ask them this question: what skills do you want to bring to being an astronaut? What skills do you want to be? What skills what career skills are you bringing to astronautics? And that has to do with space food. Space food. Because there's so much science and so much nutrition and thinking that goes into space food. Oh my Google. There's a ton. And the reason why is because when you're in space, like listen to this science. This is crazy. Food, look, this orange right here, filled with water. Water is heavy. And so when we take this to space, it costs money to take this orange to space because of how expensive it is to get weight up off the planet up to space. Things that are light are really easy to get up there, like apple seeds as opposed to an apple, or orange seeds as opposed to an orange. So if we brought an orange up there and we had water up there already, we could grow orange trees in giant terrariums, giant big. We could have a dome with a space forest in it and have space citrus trees and space apple trees. That's actually the plan. So in the meantime, before we do that, we have to figure out the most efficient way to get stuff that is heavy. Wait, is there something on my glasses? It looks like something's on my glasses. Hold on. We get to figure out the most efficient way to find out how to get stuff that is heavy up to space. And water is heavy, so when we send food up to space, I can't see you. I can't see you now. Hold on. When we send food up to space, it is really heavy. Sending food up to space is actually one of the most expensive things to do. So it is a lot smarter to figure out other ways or to make it lighter. And how we do that, one of the ways we do that is we dehydrate food. Like, oh, I got some dehydrated food over here. This is my Mike Mongo snack cabinet. Where is it? I got some mango, dried mango with chili pepper on it. So I don't know if you know what mango is. It's kind of like an orange. It's kind of like a cantaloupe. It's soft. But look, now it's turned into kind of leather. This is mango leather, and it's delicious. I love it. And I like a little spice and pepper on mine, so that's what I put on it. So when we dehydrate food, we can rehydrate it in space. That's saying that we already have water up there. Well, one of the things that is a byproduct of a lot of the processes we do in space is water. We have extra water up there from the different processes. We distill it and clean it so that we have extra water. So we can bring dehydrated food to space and then rehydrate it when it gets to space with the water that we have up there. Got it? That's a process. There's a couple steps there, and we make adjustments. But we've been up in space for for 61, 71, 81, 91, 2001, 2011, almost 60 years. Because this is 2020, and so next year will be 2021. We've been up in space for almost 60 years. That's like as old as a grandparent, even older. And so we figured out some things like how to get food to space. And this is and you are on a space mission right now. We're calling this global space mission that you are on quarantine. And so you're in your shelter and you have the food that is with you right now. And that's the food that you would figure out, like, how do I divide this food up to make it last long? Because I'm in space. Can't just eat all the time in space. We gotta be very particular about when we eat, how much we eat, and what kinds of foods we eat. Are you eating the right kind of food on your space training mission? Are you eating vegetables? Are you eating fruits? And are you eating not just fruits, but both fruits and vegetables? Fruits and vegetables, especially if you're a young student, those are the things that put the building materials. Like this robot, I'm 6'5". The only reason I got this big is because I ate the right materials when I was you. So this is your opportunity. So for this machine, this robot, this human body that I'm in right now, for it to run properly, I have to eat fruits and vegetables. I have to eat this stuff I get to. I love eating fruits and vegetables. Look, I even have some spare broccoli right here. Sometimes I just nibble on broccoli. And sometimes I put a little spice on it. I put a little salt and pepper, like a little mix I have. And so I put a little flavor on there, just a little bit for me. Maybe for you, you want more. Did you know that students have more taste buds on your tongue? Yeah, on your tongue, you have more taste buds. So your flavors are more intense for you. And I mention this because another important truth about space food. I referenced it earlier. When you're in space and you're on a long space mission, this is kind of crazy. You get bored. Not of the mission. Not usually of the mission, but of the food. Like have you ever had to eat peanut butter every day for a long time? I've had to do that when I was in college. Like I had a limited budget, so I would eat peanut butter every day at lunch for months until finally I was done with peanut butter. I didn't eat peanut butter for a long time. Same thing with ramen noodles. I used to eat them for lunch. Like it was a fast lunch, hot water, ramen, spice, boom, 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 eat, done. And then one day I realized I do not want to eat any more ramen noodles. And I didn't eat ramen noodles for a long time. And then I went back to peanut butter and ramen after a while. So nutritionists at NASA figured this thing out because they ask astronauts, so what's your experience like? What are you missing up in space? And astronauts almost always say fresh vegetables and fruit. So while the fresh part can be tricky, what we figured out is we can send dehydrated stuff like dehydrated peas, dehydrated beets, dehydrated potatoes, and add water and make them into delicious dishes. And you add spices, different flavors, and it transforms that food. Did you know that space dietitians is a real job? Space chef is a job. Like somebody, like we don't have famous space chefs yet. But trust me, as a 55-year-old grown-up, knowing that tomorrow's jobs are in space, and the reason I'm having this conversation with you right now, the reason I put together Mike Mongo's Astronaut Adventures, is because I want you to know that Space Chef is going to be a real job. There's going to be a Space Chef show. There's going to be Space Chef shows. What kind of space things? Because remember, when you're making stuff in space, I got to show you something. By the way, speaking of food, speaking of all this stuff and everything like that, let's get a paka paka. Not quite a paka paka. I just remembered something. You know how much I love to write on the board, right? Do not forget, this whole show, if you have a grown-up in your life, remind them, this show is put together by coffee. This whole show is sponsored by coffee. It is fueled by coffee. It is energized by coffee. And how I get that coffee is that people go here. This is really cool. People go to, and you know how much I love to write. Watch. I love letters. MikeMongo.com. They go to MikeMongo.com, pow, and then they click on, let's do red. We interrupt this previously scheduled programming to bring you this important message. There it is, check it out. Buy Mike a coffee. So if you go to MikeMongo.com, click on Buy Mike a Coffee, and that makes this show Buy Mike a Coffee, COFFEE. And that makes this show happen. And we're going to talk about coffee in a minute because it plays into space food in a big way. Because believe it or not, grown-ups need coffee. Like a lot of us, not all of us. And once, like I learned how to drink coffee in the Army, okay? So I was 35 when I became a friend of coffee. And so I got to, one of the things I asked astronauts when I very first started seeing them, is there coffee in space? Because I love coffee. It would be like you asking, is there sugar in space? And yes, there is sugar. And there's candy. Oh, I'm going to show you something. Okay, so space food and so space coffee. Well, when you make coffee in space, you can't they have it and originally they shipped it in some plastic bags and you squirted it into your mouth, and that was probably pretty terrible. It wasn't so terrible that they didn't drink it, because coffee is delicious, yum. As a grown-up, I know. As a student, I couldn't stand it. Oh, except for the coffee that my abuela made. My grandmother, she would make me these con leches, these that they call cafe con leche, with a lot of sugar and a lot of steamed milk, every Sunday, just for me. And that's how I got to like coffee. Come to think of it, pow. So I was you when I started to like coffee, but it was mostly like sweet milk and a little bit of coffee, because you don't really give coffee to kids. Pow. So on the International Space Station, we would ask astronauts when we're doing these space missions, what's the thing you most miss about home? And the answer was fruits and vegetables. So that's how we figured out that if we dehydrated fruits and vegetables, we could get them to the space station quick and then put water in them and make them into delicious dishes. For instance, dehydrated mango. You can turn into desserts. You can turn it into a side dish for a meal. You can use it as a snack. That's a terrific thing. Dehydrated bananas. Have you had dehydrated bananas? Banana chips? Those are dehydrated bananas. Those are perfect for the space station. I don't know that you would add water to them, but if you wanted to make banana pudding, you could. So there you go. These are the things. I'm telling you this because you're on a space training mission right now. Got it? Got it? And you've got a kitchen and you get to figure out these things. What meals would you make to bring to space? Like Jell-O takes a lot of water. Jell-O is a weird thing, but Jell-O in space probably looks pretty cool. I know it does. All right. And what else? Cookies. Who doesn't like cookies? I love cookies. And a cookie floating in space that you just like eat it out of space. That would be fun. But how would you bake a cake in space? Like a cake has to rise. And so but there's no gravity. So what's holding it down in the first place? And so when you put it in how does the cake not leave the pan? Like when you pour the batter into the pan, how do you get the batter out of the bowl into the pan? Let's say the batter's pre-made, so then you squirt it out of a pre-made tube or a pouch, and then it just floats around in the air. Do you know how liquid looks in space? I'm glad you asked. Let me show you. Watch this. This is my friend Leland Melvin, who we all love, right? All right. Candy floating in space. Check this out. Let me click this light off and see if we can get it better. I'll fix it in editing. I'll fix it in post. That's what we say here in Los Angeles. I'll fix it in post. Watch this. This is how water behaves in space. And this is water with candy. That's Leland. He's an amazing astronaut. Look how cool that was. You want to see it? I want to see it again. Can we see it again, please? Leland Melvin, and they toss candy into water. This is how liquids behave in space with low gravity, microgravity. And then he drinks that right up. He actually drinks it after that. Like he eats it with the candy in the ball of water. So that's space food. Oh, let's get this light back on. And imagine, you know what? You could create games. There's going to be space food games. Space floats. So Space Chef is going to be a lot more interesting. How do you cook green beans? They'll float away. So we get to think about these kind of things. Yeah, I'm giving you permission to think about these kind of things. How many of you love to cook food? How many of you take for granted that food shows up at your every meal, that food shows up for breakfast, food shows up for lunch, food shows up for dinner? Who's taking care of that? That's not how it works in real life. That's only when you're a student. It's cool and everything. Who doesn't love cooking from somebody else? I love it. My mom, my auntie, my tia, my tio, all these people in my life that used to cook really well and still do today. Cooking is not my big thing. I can cook if I need to. Because I'm on quarantine just like you, my food preparation is completely different than it used to be. I would just used to order out or go to a restaurant, call up a friend, let's go get something to eat. I would have quick snacks, and I was always on the go, like an astronaut. Now I'm here all the time. So my diet has become like your diet. And our diet is exactly like Dr. Proctor talked about last week. It is a space diet. We're on space mission training. And so you know how you get bored? Mom, I had that yesterday. Dad, granddad, I had that yesterday. I had that yesterday. Holy smokes. Some people eat the same thing every single day because there's nothing else to eat. In space, it's like that. We don't have the luxury yet. So we'll get there, but this is the generation. You are the generation that makes that transition for us. So right now, though it's getting better with my generation, the older people, it's going to be great for you. And you get to figure it out, how to do it. How are we going to bring great, fresh flavors to space? What are we going to do? How are we going to, have you ever grown a garden? And the reason I ask this is super important, because we grow fruits and vegetables on the space station. I mentioned it last week. And how do you water a plant in space? Because the water floats, you just saw what the water does, it floats around. It's not something that you think about. You know what happens if I squirt out water right now? It spills right on the ground. Look, there's no water floating here. Look, it goes right to the bottom. Gravity pulls it down. But in space, that's not how it happens. In space, this just floats around, as a matter of fact. I can open up the bottle and the water will come out and it will form into a ball. And then I can drink it right out of space. And you can Google water in space and you can see that for yourself. I'm going to get to do a training on Googling, so you're really good at Googling, because you got to do that. So I want to tell you about, let's talk about space food. Specifically, my favorite thing in the whole Yugle-verse. Buy Mike a coffee, MikeMongo.com. It is space coffee. Did you know that we had a espresso machine that's a really intense, yummy coffee on the International Space Station? And the first person to drink a space espresso is an astronaut, Samantha Cristoforetti. This is the first Italian woman astronaut. This is the first woman from Italy who is an astronaut. Astronaut Samantha Cristoforetti. And another cool thing about, not only did astronaut Cristoforetti get to drink the very first espresso made by Lavazza. And I've seen their coffee around the world. I've seen Lavazza all over the place. Not only that, but Samantha Cristoforetti is famous because she is a Star Trek fan, and I'm a Star Trek fan. And she loves Star Trek a lot. And so when one of the most famous people in Star Trek died, his name is Leonard Nimoy, and he was a Vulcan with the pointy ears, and he does this. This is his greeting: live long and prosper. When he died, it affected the entire world. And she was on the space station, and she had her Star Trek stuff with her. And so she put her Star Trek badge on, and she was up at the cupola of the International Space Station, where you can see the Earth all the time. And she looked out into space, and she gave this salute. Oh, I get choked up. She's a Trekkie. And she talked about coffee in space because Captain Janeway on Star Trek Voyager, another Star Trek TV series, loved coffee in space. And so astronaut Cristoforetti talked about coffee like Captain Janeway from Star Trek talked about coffee. Now, all of that is cool and everything. Maybe not so cool for you because you're a student. You don't care about coffee. So I'm talking to the grown-ups. You know, you can talk about some coffee with the grown-ups. It's going to be a thing. You have a little coffee. You have a little drink. You have a little, something, a little, what's it called? A snack. Check it out. I'm thinking kibbles and bits, but that's not it. Cristoforetti came up with Mission X for students from the ages of I think from 10 to 15, maybe 8 to 13, called Train Like an Astronaut. It was a program, a 9-week astronaut training program that she came up with to train students on Earth to be ready for space. She came up with that, I think, in 2015. 2015 was the exact year that my book, The Astronaut Instruction Manual, came out. Like, she came out with Train Like an Astronaut, Mission X, Train Like an Astronaut. And check this out. This is the really coolest part of this whole thing, is that part of the training, part of the mission was about nutrition, and talked about something called spirulina, 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 which is algae. It's a blue-green algae that human beings can eat and live on, and we have talked about using this algae to use as space food. I've been to so many space conferences with scientists and nutritionists and dietitians who talk about space food being algae. And I tried it, and I want you to know, it was really good. Some of it tastes like ice cream, believe it or not. Some of it tastes like spaghetti. What just happened? How did that happen? 1 second. That shouldn't have happened. How did that go through? Oh, my Google. Are we broadcasting? We are. All right, cool. So check it out. This is I want you to think about eating algae in space, because eating algae in space, you don't have to have a lot. You don't have to bring heavy things. You can bring dried algae to space, add a little bit of water, and it will grow fast. Algae grows fast, and suddenly you're making your own food in space. You can make it in, like the conference that I saw, it was Mae Jemison's, Dr. Mae Jemison, astronaut and medical doctor. She put on a conference called 100-Year Starship. And at the 100-Year Starship conference, when we were talking about interstellar space missions to other solar systems, another sun, where there might be planets with other people. We don't know. And so it would take so long to get there that making food is a major thought, major preoccupation. We get to think about, how are we going to make food on an interstellar space mission? And so a number of the people there were talking about using algae as the food source and energy source and to make clothes. You can do a lot of stuff with algae and it grows fast, believe it or not. It's like there's so much good stuff in the universe. Like the rainforests are filled with stuff we haven't even discovered yet. So I'm giving you permission to imagine all of these new things, new kinds of what I always think, I used to think, what if we didn't have to eat in space? What if they just took our appetite away and we just took nutrients and we wouldn't have to worry about it? But that's not how the human body actually works, because the brain and the mind is connected to the body. And they're all connected together, the whole thing, our senses, our tastes, our flavors, our thoughts, how we feel, our emotions, our stomach, our hunger, it's all connected. And so you can't really just remove one. They're all together for a reason. Believe it or not, it's really interesting. And that's called a holistic view. That's like looking at the whole picture, the whole thing, holistic. And so smells and flavors are what remind us of who we are. They remind us of where we're from. And that is something that is very important when it comes to successful space missions, reminding us why we're there in the first place. Because if you're in space, are you going to miss your dog? Are you going to miss your cat? Are you going to miss your mom? Are you going to miss your dad? Are you going to miss your grandparents? Are you going to miss your best friends? Are you going to miss your teachers? If you lived in space, you might. These are things to think about. How can we make accommodation, how can we make space for all of these different things? Which is why I always say that my perfect spaceship would be Jamaica, because there's room for everything. Like imagine Jamaica in outer space. There's plenty of space. Space is big. And so this is why space food is very important. I'm introducing a topic to you to think about, to realize when people ask me all the time, how do I become an astronaut? I say, well, become really good at food. What? Why would I become good at food if I was going to become an astronaut? What has food got to do with astronautics? Now you know. Now you know. Now you know more than a lot of grown-ups. Grown-ups my people, we don't even think about space food all the time when we talk about space. We just think about floating around like it would be cool in some big, bulky spacesuit. But your spacesuit is going to be cool looking, more like Spider-Man and Iron Man than a NASA astronaut. And you could design a spacesuit. I got friends who are spacesuit designers. And we can talk about spacesuits. If you have any questions about any subject, like can I do this job in space? Wow, I can't believe I haven't talked to you about space plumber, because that is an important job. I know I've mentioned it before, but wow. People don't even know how much money plumbers make. Students don't know how much money plumbers make. It is a lot. Plumbers make between, in the US, a very, very cheap plumber would be $30 an hour. A more practical plumber, more likely, plumbers usually cost between $60 and $90 an hour. Easily. And if it is 2 o'clock in the morning and there's a toilet explosion, a plumber will come out to your house and it's going to be like $240 an hour. And you'll pay it because nobody wants to have an exploding toilet at 2 o'clock in the morning. Trust me, as a grown-up, I can say I've been there. So if having a working toilet and working sinks and working that kind of stuff, showers and that kind of stuff on Earth is important, imagine how important it is in space. So $60 to $240 an hour. Imagine how much a space plumber makes. If an Earth plumber makes $60 to $240 an hour, imagine how much a space plumber makes. Got it? Got it? Space plumber. Whew. And of course, space athlete. Space food is something that's consistent with all of those. Space food is one of the most important subjects of all the subjects. Oh my, Google space food. Space food. Yeah, Google space food. I'm going to get to show you all how to use Google successfully so you're just like super strong at Google. Because Google is a superpower and you have it. Okay? So space food is a major thing. It fits into space athletics. It fits into space plumbing, engineering, space engineers. Engineers need to eat food. Construction in space construction workers. Somebody's got to build these space stations we're talking about. There will be space construction. We build a lot of it on Earth, but the industry is changing. So who wants to be a construction worker? Plenty of people. That's an exciting, fun job. Pays really well. Space construction worker. See? I'm giving you permission to open it up entirely. I'm doing something that other grown-ups haven't done in your life. That's important. I'm giving you permission yourself to reimagine how we think of space and reimagine how you think of space and comparing and putting yourself in the space future. I'm giving you permission to reimagine everything. Got it? Use that power. Now, something I want to tell you about is I get these comments live. Last time I got a bunch of comments. I don't see any comments right here. I hope I'm doing it right. I think I'm doing it right. But last time my friend Tori Charismo over at Overlook Horizon Space Balloons messaged me and I didn't get to say hi to him. And I just want you to know that I love it when people comment while I'm doing a video. And Tori Charismo and OLHZN, Overlook Horizon Space Balloons, is a really cool bunch of videos that shows what you can do, that anybody can do in our own neighborhoods, in our own homes, in our own houses. He does all kinds of cool stuff. Now he's gotten fantastic at it. He does live broadcasts of all the space launches. He's one of my favorite space people. I've never even met him. We've just chatted occasionally. We've done a couple live things where I've gone and see him do live, and he's been super kind and cool. And I love how he thinks. He reminds me of another friend of mine. Every day. What is going on? How am I getting calls through? And so then I don't know what's going on. All right. So my friend Tori Charismo and OLHD, and you can Google that and check out his stuff. I think it's really awesome. I have a list because this is our agenda for the day. Okay. I hope you have an agenda in your life. Socks. I found a pair of space socks that I got to show you. Got to show you these socks. Let's see, how do I do this? All right, let's just bring them down here. Check these out. Check out these space socks. All right, let's bring it down to Earth. Gimbal. Dun 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 dun. I love my space socks. Dun dun dun. I've had these NASA Snoopy space socks for a while and I haven't seen them, and then they showed up again and I was like, oh, I gotta show everybody these awesome Snoopy and Woodstock in space as a sock. This is one of the joys about being a grown-up. You'll get to wear whatever you want when you get to be me. Okay? Just showing, like, hey, there's a lot of good stuff about being a grown-up, and being able to buy your own socks is definitely one, all right? So let's see, how do I get this thing? Gimbal, join us. What are you doing? What are you doing? All right, cool. I wanted to talk a little bit about the Earth, the Moon, and the Sun, and that's because the Moon is going around. It's starting to get full again, and I noticed, and somebody said to me, that's because the Earth is the reason the reason you only see part of the Moon is because the Earth, the shadow of the Earth blocks the sun from. That's not true. No, that's not the case at all. And so I was like, okay, so let me and a friend of mine asked me about that. My friend Victoria had a question. She's 4.5, and her mom is actually my friend, and I love her mom. Oh my gosh, Stephanie, and they're supporters, they're fans. they buy me coffee, and so look, see this orange? I'm gonna eat this orange, and I'm gonna use this orange as the moon, and I'm gonna use this as the sun, and I'm gonna show you how this whole thing works. Let's go out into space for a minute, because I don't want to get juice all over the place when I jab this. Let's see. All right, come here, you. It's for science. Okay. We now have a moon. Okay? Got it? That's the moon. Watch this. So this is Victoria. She's 4.5. She's asking about the moon and the sun. And okay, you can start to see this. Did you see the shadow? Ah, there you go. You see the shadow that starts to show up. Hold on. Let's see. So I'm the Earth. This is the moon. Okay, you start to see that shadow right there? So now the fact of the matter is the moon has a weird orbit. So let's say my head is the Earth. Hi, I'm the Earth. Oh, perfect. It's Q&A time. How great is that? All right. So my head is the Earth. This is the moon. And that's not the right size, because the moon is a lot smaller than the Earth. It's not that big, okay? So, but you can see, here's the sun over here, obviously. There's the light, and you can see this is the daytime. My head is the Earth. The sun is hitting, the sun is hitting the Earth. My head is the Earth, the light is the sun. And so this is daytime, and over here it's nighttime, got it? So the moon is traveling around the Earth as we spin, and you can see that the light from the sun starts to make part shade on the one side and part light on the other. And that is why, because the moon is in an orbit around the Earth as the moon and the Earth are in an orbit around the sun. So we go around the sun and that shadow starts to appear. And it has nothing to do with the Earth. It has to do with where we're seeing the moon in relation to the sun. Because the moon kind of stays in a locked position, at least how it looks to us. It definitely spins like the Earth, but it spins at the same pace as the Earth, and so we see the same thing pretty much every single time. And as we're spinning around, you can see more light shows up. Let's get this turned around. You can see more light shows up on the dark over here, light over here. And then sometimes the moon is right here and it's totally dark on this side, but that other side, which we call the dark side of the moon, is actually covered with light. So the dark side of the moon isn't really we can call it the far side of the moon, but it's not really the dark side of the moon because it gets lights at different times. We just never see it. But for us, the moon in this position is going to be really dark. And that's when we get a new phase of the moon. But on the other, we're over here, 15 days later or so, we get a full bright moon. But this side over here is dark now. And that is why we get different times. As the moon goes around the Earth, once every, it takes about 30 days. It's like 27 days, I think it takes for the moon to go around the Earth. The Earth is spinning, the moon is spinning. We're both spinning around the sun. How fast are we spinning around the sun? It takes us 1 year to get around the sun. And that's why we have years. And sometimes we're closer and sometimes we're farther away. Sometimes we're tilted facing the sun and sometimes we're tilted away from the sun, and sometimes we're tilted facing it. And we're tilted facing it, warmer, tilted farther, it's colder. And so this is interesting. So for the Earth to go around the sun, every year, we travel 584 million miles. The Earth going around the sun travels 584 million miles every year. I'm making this tiny circle, and it's this ginormous space. This little tiny Earth going around this big ball of hydrogen fusion. And so we are 93 million miles from the sun. 93 million miles from the sun. It takes us 3 days to travel to the moon, and the moon is close to us. So think how long it takes us to get to the sun. Think about that. And we're 240,000 miles away from the moon. 240,000 miles away from the moon. And it takes us 3 days to get 240,000 miles. So it takes us a long time to get to the sun. Or we send spacecraft there to take pictures. We have satellites around there, so we can look for stuff like solar flares and stuff like that. Those are important to know when those are coming, so we can brace for it, because a solar flare can affect, sometimes it could blow out the internet. Solar flares have affected all of civilization like that before. So knowing about the weather of the sun, space weather, space meteorologist. So these are all the kind of different jobs. It is that sound that went off, that beep, 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 that's the Q&A time, and that means there's some questions coming up, and so here we go. I got some, you got questions, I got answers. So let's look up and find some of these. Let's see, where are they? I had them. Oh, you know what? This person, I got a question from a grown-up today. I got a question from a young adult grown-up. Let's see if I can find it. It was kind of cool. Their name, Sishitha Pili. Shithitha Pili. And here's the cool thing about, she wants to know about being an astronaut. Shithitha Pili is an electrical engineer already. And she lives in India. I got so many questions from around the world. And she asked me how to be an astronaut. And then you know what? We're having a conversation, because since she's a young adult and a grown-up, I'm having a conversation with her so that she can find the right jobs, the right positions. And that's what I do. And I found out that they're a poet. And remember astronaut Nicole Stott that I told you about, and how important art in space? Wow. Shithitha wrote this amazing poem called Trust. And I have to read it to you, okay? Trust. The way each defines trust depends on the situation. But fundamentally, trust exists deep within a soul. The mind's perception of trust is affected by many external factors like miscommunication, misunderstanding, and misguiding. So, let your true feeling come from the deep roots of the soul. That will give everyone the real meaning of trust. If this feeling is guiding you to move forward or backward, it always speaks the truth. Believe this feeling. Let those external factors not lose any valuable relationship you make with another soul. Because if you were to stay strong, trust is the base of the building. That's a poem. And it is how I see everything. I always say to you, trust your heart. Trust your heart. What has that got to do with astronautics? Everything. As I've said to you many times, being an astronaut means being a great team player. Being a human being someone who lives, work, and play in space means being trustworthy and dependable. And we are that way when we trust our heart. Our heart never, ever, ever misleads us. Ever. Ever. That's like big talk. That's important stuff. Not how you feel, but how your heart feels, how you know. It's the difference between right and wrong. What's right for you? What's wrong for you? Ask your heart. Okay? You can talk about that with somebody else. Somebody else gonna, ask your friend, do you trust your heart? Now that's a good, intelligent conversation for students to be having. And you'll understand. Now ask a grown-up. Ask a grown-up. Send a letter to an astronaut and ask them, do you trust your heart? Wow, what a question. You will become their friend like that. Okay? So that was one question. I thought that was great. That wasn't exactly a question. We were talking about, we were specifically talking about how Sathisha could be in space. How she could go to be an astronaut. So I was helping her, and I found out that she's a poet. And so then I just want to share that, and I'll share it on my Instagram, Mike Mongo, Astronaut Teacher. And then my friend Manav Kingslayer, sir, I also want to become an astronaut. That's popular. What can I do to become an astronaut? And I asked Manav, what career skills do you want to bring to astronautics? Because as I've pointed out to you before, we don't really study. You can go to school and study aerospace, astronautical engineering, and it's not that different than mechanical engineering. To be perfectly frank with you, and it's more important what life skills and what other skills you're bringing to it. Like Dr. Proctor, remember when she got chosen out of 5,000 people to be an astronaut, to be in the top 16 of selections by NASA for a class of astronauts, I think it was 2009, it was because she studied nutrition, she traveled and studied photography, and she had a degree in geology, a geologist. She brought geology, nutrition, photography, and world experience in travel to her application to be an astronaut. She did not bring I trained to be an astronaut. She brought, this is the stuff that I'm good at. And so what are you good at? What is the skill that you're good at? What are you practicing to make you really good at something? I tell my son, Raphael, if you don't know how to do dishes, you won't be able to do anything. Dishes is like a step, like anybody can pretend to wash a dish, but we learn how to wash a dish, and then we take the skills we learn from how to wash a dish well to do other things in life. By becoming good at washing dishes, I knew how to become good at things. It was a funny thing. I didn't know when I was a student that washing dishes would have such an impact on my life, and yet here we are. I love to wash dishes now, because I work on other stuff while I'm washing dishes. I just do a great job of it. And so that's one of the ways when people say, how do I train to be an astronaut? I ask them, are you great at washing dishes? Are you a good team player? Do you support other people? Are you a poet? How do you feel about art? Do you practice your homework like it's a business, like it's your favorite thing in the entire world? Have you trained yourself to do that yet? Do you clean up after yourself in the bathroom? Do you pick up your laundry? And you know what? Students get upset with me when I ask those questions because they're like, what's that got to do with astronautics? Got it? The one thing is put in our way to see if we'll have permission to do the other thing. Grown-ups don't always explain that to you. So I'm super happy to explain it to you right now. Become really good at the little stuff, and they let us do the big stuff. You don't get to be an astronaut teacher without being good at a lot of other things that have nothing to do with astronautics. I run to help people. That's why I make this show, to help you. I mean, occasionally somebody buys me a cup of coffee. That's wonderful and sweet. It definitely supports the program. That's not why I'm doing it. I'm doing it because maybe you're the next Mae Jemison, Leland Melvin, Sally Ride, Buzz Aldrin, Neil Armstrong. There's so many astronauts that you might be the first one of. You might be the next one. What if you listen to me right now are the first kid in space? What if you are one of the first kids in space? That's why I'm doing this. That's why I'm sharing this stuff with you. And some of it is tricky. I get it. Sometimes it is really challenging to wrap our head around the fact that Picking up my clothes in the bedroom has to do with doing whatever I want as a grown-up. Sometimes it is. And that's why I'm here to remind you. Because not every grown-up is going to remind you. Okay? So, send me your questions. I love hearing from you. Thank you very much. I didn't see any comments this time, so, that's all right. Pow, pow, pow. Next time. And I'll announce what our next show is about. It's a doozy. All right? This is Mike Mongo, Astronaut Adventures. Let's see if we can put this thing back on. I love this. Having your own song is really an awesome thing. Don't forget to send your letter to Jim Bridenstine. If you don't know how to send a letter, look up the video. How to mail NASA Administrator Jim Bridenstine. He's looking for your letters. We had a lot of people watch that video. So get your letters in. Let's see how many people write the letters. Pow, pow, pow.